Welcome everyone to Not That Media. My name is John, and in this new series of videos entitled The 12 Scares of Christmas, starting December Friday the 13th, 2024 and running till Christmas Eve, I'm going to be giving you 12 film recommendations, all of them Christmas movies, all of them horror, some a little scarier than others, some a little bit more family friendly, something for everyone I hope. I've made this list, I've checked it twice, you better watch out, and I hope you're ready to slay, because come along with me as I start The 12 Scares of Christmas. In Tim Burton's The Nightmare Before Christmas, bored with the same old scare and scream routines, Pumpkin King Jack Skellington longs to spread the joy of Christmas, but his merry mission puts Santa in jeopardy and creates nightmares for all the good little boys and girls everywhere. So Merry Christmas to all the good fright. Thank you for joining me for yet another 12 Scare of Christmas video. This one might be a little bit of a surprise for you more gorehound orientated people out there, but yes, The Nightmare Before Christmas. If it wasn't for Terrifier 3 having its success and my desire to capitalize on YouTube's algorithms, I would actually be opening this video series with The Nightmare Before Christmas, because for me it is the perfect transitional period for any horror fan. Halloween is over, we move through November and we're in December, and people will argue forever, I'm sure, that The Nightmare Before Christmas, is it a Christmas film or is it a Halloween film? It is both. It is the meeting of two worlds. It is horror and Christmas, horror and the holiday spirit coming together to become something that's not quite as good as either, which is exactly why I enjoy it. For me, horror does not need to be isolated to Halloween or Friday the 13th or something like that, but Christmas family horror is something that we don't get a tremendous amount of. And The Nightmare Before Christmas, some of you will probably still be saying, this ain't a horror film, John, why are you talking about it? But I'm going to talk about it in a way that I'm hoping might give you a little bit of a change of heart. The film opens with Halloween Town celebrating Halloween, and all the residents of Halloween who have been preparing all year for their special night. The Wolfman, a family of vampires, Frankenstein's monsters, Igor, a 9-foot skeleton in charge of the whole thing, the creature from the Black Lagoon, a bog monster, Dr. Kilvarian's Cabinet of Dreams character, some kind of creature in the moon, Oogie Boogie, all these different things, little trick-or-treating children, all these iconographies of horror are all coming together to celebrate Halloween yet again. And the second Halloween is over, we're gonna get ready for next year. And of course, the king of Halloween Town, the Pumpkin King himself, Jack Skellington, is bored. He's had enough. He loves scaring, he loves being the most frightening thing, he can do anything, he can take off his head to cite Shakespearean quotations, he can make any animal or man scream, and yet something's missing. He's growing old and it's getting boring. So when he has a twist of fate and decides to go walking in the woods with his dead dog Ghost Zero, again, horror people, to his surprise he finds, long before the MC or the DCU or any kind of multiverse storyline that is all over the bloody place these days, he finds himself in the middle of the woods with a number of gateways that leads to other holidays. Completely confused by this, he looks around, he sees the Easter egg, he sees the Thanksgiving, he sees the St. Patrick's Day, but he is beguiled by a Christmas tree on the tree. When he turns the bauble that is the doorknob, he is sucked into a time vortex which drops him right in the middle of something completely new and completely different, and that is Christmas Town. And as a result of this, and the film is a musical, he sings a song called What's This, in which he realises that his mind is being reopened, his heart is being opened, and here is something so wonderful and so magical and so different that he wants a piece of it. Like everybody out there, whether you're religious or not, Christmas has become the annual event about having fun, good, kindness, sharing and things like this, because Jack Skellington and the townspeople of Halloween Town are not evil people. They do scary things, but they are ultimately good for the most part. So Jack has a fantastic idea, having had his mind opened, that he wants to bring Christmas to Halloween Town, and this year he wants the job as Santa Claus, or Sandy Claus as he says, because there's a wonderful joke about them always getting things wrong. So Skeleton Jack, being a good person, ponders in his brain how he can bring Christmas to Halloween Town, and he has the great idea that he's going to make Christmas theirs. Santa can take a year off. He can take a hike and go. So he summons 3 of the trick-or-treaters, Lock, Shock and Barrel, and tells them to go and find Santa Claus, bring him to him, and he tells Santa, it's your year off, you can do whatever you want. And of course Santa is completely confused, completely outraged. I can't take Christmas off. What are you talking about? Jack says no, has him tied up and has him taken away. Unbeknownst to him, taken away to the film's villain, Oogie Boogie. So with this, the town of Halloween is going to bring Christmas to the human race. The problem is, of course, is that from their perspective, because their minds cannot comprehend anything other than being scary or monstrous or Halloweenish, their Christmas, of course, is a season of nightmares. They don't bring beautiful toys and wonderful things. They bring killer ducks and vampire dolls. They bring Christmas tree wreaths that strangle and frighten old women. They bring severed heads to children. They do all these things. So, of course, when Skeleton Jack, the 9-foot skeleton in a Santa outfit, shows up dropping his presents with his skinless reindeer, of course, the human race is completely outraged and they set out to bring him down. This film is a perfect blend, in my opinion, of dark comic horror blended with Christmas. Say what you like about Tim Burton these days. Say what you want about the quality of his films. But let's be perfectly honest, in the early 90s, Tim Burton was on a rocket to the moon at this point in time, and The Nightmare Before Christmas was an absolute classic. It is everything you need to know about Tim Burton. To this day, it is one of the most financially successful things that Tim Burton has ever done, and Disney is continuing to this day to capitalize on the financial success of The Nightmare Before Christmas. I find it ironic, of course, that and wonderful that, say for example, that we're able to take the Haunted Mansion and it is turned into a Christmas Nightmare Before Christmas event at Disneyland. It is amazing that the idea of horror and Christmas could be so embraced by the pop culture and be embraced by an institution that is supposed to be family friendly. Now, this is not a gory film, it's not a swearing film, but for some people, for some little ones out there, this is definitely a scary film for them. So I do always say, you be you, do what you want. If you think this is too lame for the kids, if this is too babyish for the kids, that's your decision. For some of you out there, you might be thinking, well, is there a film that I can show them over the Christmas period? Not too scary, but the first little tiptoes into the world of horror. Art the Clown may not necessarily be the best thing to show people, but like I say, you be you. But Nightmare Before Christmas, I'm in my late 30s. I watch it every year since I was a child. Absolutely loved it. Purchased in multiple formats. VHS, DVD, Blu-ray. It's free on Disney Plus. There's a fantastic Blu-ray that's got a really cool, clear, really colourful version. So if you're looking for a physical copy, do seek it out. It's one of the very best Blu-rays that Disney put out. Not in terms of special features, but I just think streaming doesn't quite give this the look the film quite deserves. I'm a really big fan of watching this one on Blu-ray. It's the meeting of two worlds, horror and Christmas. That's what this video series is all about. Now, in terms of recommending a scene, there's one scene that I want to just finish on here, because people who will sit there and say, the film's not scary, the film's not this, the film's not that. You're right, it might not necessarily be too scary for people these days, particularly adults who've had the Peter Pan effect and grow up and forget how scary these things might have been when they were younger. But for me, I just want to capitalise on one moment. When Jack is in Halloween Town and he is running around singing this song about the fact that the children are throwing snowballs instead of throwing heads, and there's no one dead, there's no one around him who's dead, he does this wonderful thing where somehow, and the film never explains it, he is able to break into the house of some elves. There is a number of elves asleep in bed, all happy, and this fantastic shape, this fantastic shadow, something out of Nosferatu, comes across the wall, because Jack is this big, gangly, scary-looking skeleton thing, comes, and he's talking about how there's no monsters under the bed, there's no nightmares to be found, and he leans forward to this little elf, he puts his cold, dead, clammy skeleton hands on the side as he goes to look down to talk about how wonderful this is, and he goes, ah, and then just as the elf wakes up, he runs out the room. Now, I always joke about this, and I love to tell people to do this, because I always think when you watch that scene, you probably don't think anything of it. Oh, isn't it funny? The elf woke up and he ran out the room. But imagine that from the elf's perspective. You exist in a world where there is no danger, there's no monsters, there's nothing to be worried about. You literally work for Santa, you're up in the North Pole, everything's great. Imagine the fear of being asleep and maybe you start to turn in your bed and you can hear what sounds like somebody singing in your bedroom in the middle of the night. And you wake up and your slightly crusty eyes sees a 9-foot skeleton man singing and leaning towards you, looking at how wonderful you are, and then storms out of the room to talk about the sights, the sounds, and everything that's all around him. I couldn't think of anything more terrifying. And I think it's funny that sometimes I think you should put yourself in characters' shoes to appreciate actually the enormity of that moment. It's a little bit silly. Some of you might be like, what is he going on about? But when you watch that moment, just take in the fact that that is, I mean, this elf, he couldn't be any more than a foot. So this dude is like 9 times his height. He's terrifying. Jack Skellington, as a piece of iconography, is quite scary. I think it's as far as Disney would probably be willing to go. Reeks Tim Burton. And anybody else, just to finish, who maintains that this is not scary, I will tell you now, the original drawings and the original poem that Tim Burton wrote about The Nightmare Before Christmas and how Jack Skellington, was disenfranchised, everything else, they provide that poem on the Blu-ray, and it is narrated by Christopher Lee himself. Yes, people, the king of Hammer House of Horror, Saruman himself, Count Dooku, he is going to sit and share with you the Christmas poem of The Nightmare Before Christmas. Again, if you want any more credibility about the fact that this film should be treated as a horror film, albeit a family children's horror film, Christ, we've got Christopher Lee narrating the poem. What more do you want, people? Honestly, check it out. It's fun for all the family. Something a little bit scary, but can easily become something that everyone can enjoy. So hopefully you've enjoyed this one. And until the next video, stay scared.
Jack didn't know it, but he'd fallen down in the middle of a place called Christmas Town.